Nation. This is Osa. I can't wait for the season to get started, get playing with you guys, get on the field, and represent the star. You guys be sure to go check out J Tuck and subscribe to the Cowboys Fans Only and keep doing your thing, bro.
Doing Cowboys Nation, it's Kelvin Joseph. I can't wait for the season to get started. Be sure you check out J Tuck, subscribe to his channel. Keep shining, the sky's the limit. You know the vibe. Stop playing.
What's up, CFO gang? It's your boy J Tuck, and you are now tuned into the Cowboys Fans Only channel. So if you're new, do me a huge favor, comment, like, subscribe, somewhere down there, somewhere down there, somewhere down there. And be sure to turn that notification bell to stay updated with all Dallas Cowboys and CFO content. Well, Cowboys fam, today I have a real special guest, man. And this person, I'm going to be honest with you, is someone who I listen to frequently. So when I travel from Kansas City, and I fly into Dallas, right? And as soon as I get in the rental car, the very first thing I do is turn on 105.3 The Fan. And there's so many great people on that station I just love because they talk about not only the Cowboys, but they talk about my Dallas Mavericks, man. So once I turn on 105.3 The Fan, once I arrive in Dallas, I'm home, man. But not only for 105.3 The Fan, for his draft content, man. If you guys like draft content like myself, this is a guy you definitely need to be watching. He's one half of Scoutcast, him and Vouch Lombardi. So I want to give a big CFO welcome to my guy, Jeff Cavanaugh. Jeff, what's going on, bro?
Thank you.
Welcome, a round of applause.
Hey, it is an honor and a privilege, sir. It is nice to be here.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you for coming on, man. So like I said, as soon as I touch down in Dallas, if I have a rental car or someone picks me, I'm like, hey, man, turn on to 105.3 The Fan. Because I need to chime in and see what's actually going on, you know, with my Cowboys and also my Dallas Mavericks, man. Now, sometimes you guys are talking a little bit about the Rangers. I'm kind of like, all right, cool, yeah. You know, turn it down a little bit.
They're awful,
you know.
But hey, you know what?
Yeah.
They're a sports team in DFW.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to cover them, man. So like I said, I appreciate you coming on. So we're going to chime into a few things, fam. So definitely keep those questions coming in the chat. Keep the chat lit as we always do on the CFO gang. But a few things I want to dive into, man. Like I said, you know, one of the things that I admire you for is your draft content, your hustle, because you know what it really takes to dive into all these players, scouting players nonstop for that month, pretty much going from January all the way until draft day in April. So, Jeff, how are you feeling when it comes to Dallas Cowboys draft? How are you feeling in April after the draft ended and as things currently stand? Has anything changed since we kind of had these brief OTAs? Or are you still kind of, you know?
It's hard because the OTAs, they were allowed like 3 media members.
Okay.
So on our show is the great Brian Broaddus. He's a co-host of mine. And so he was going out there. So I didn't physically get to put eyes on the OTAs and he did. So I just had to trust his word on everything, which that's hard for me. I don't like.
Right. Because you and Brian be going back at it, but you can trust Brian.
Yes. He's an incredible Cowboy source. So like after the draft, I think there's 2 different ways I felt. One is if you like went pick by pick and you're like, what would you have done there? I'm like, man, my draft would have looked a lot different than their draft did. But then if you looked at it as the whole haul and you go, hey, here's the 11 picks. What do you think? You go, oh, because I think they made a really concerted effort to be like, look, this defense was awful. And so we got to throw a lot at it. And so guys who maybe I think were overdrafted by 10 to 30 spots, like Oso Odighizuwa, Chauncey Golston. But I really like those guys. Like my notes on them are super positive. And I'm like, yeah, those are both going to be good pros. Nahshon Wright, I thought was an overdraft. And now the returns on all the early OTAs have been really good for him. So like, I like the idea. The one thing I hesitate about is thinking that you're going to take like, okay, Parsons, Joseph, Wright, Odighizuwa, Golston, Jabril Cox. And I'll stop there because after the 4th round, I'm not going to get too optimistic. But those 6 guys, like as rookies, are they going to turn around defense? No. But 12 months from now, you might have a legitimate good defense because you got 6 guys that as rookies, I think will contribute. And then a year from now, you can be like, okay, here we go. So I like what they did overall. It helps when you got 11 picks. You can do a lot of damage with 11 picks. And I like a lot of the guys they got. I think Jabril Cox was a steal in the 4th round. Like I think a year from now, your linebackers are Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox.
salute to Kansas City, Raytown. Raytown's finest, Real Cox.
Is that where he's from?
Yeah, he's from Raytown. He's out from here. So, and that's why he picked Kansas City barbecue over Texas barbecue. That's a whole nother discussion.
I mean, as long as it's not Minnesota barbecue. I saw a picture of that today on Twitter, and the ribs looked like a tire. It was not good.
Minnesota barbecue, man. So you mentioned a few things, Jeff. You know, some of these players will probably be late additions when we kind of see what the actual investment was, maybe either end of this year or maybe next year. But let me ask you this: from the standpoint where things currently stand, how many day one starters do you think we actually got out of this draft? Because for me personally, I felt like that's where we kind of missed the mark. Because I know some question marks. You know, I mean, Parsons, I would say day one, you could pencil him in. Now, I know the pick at 44, that's you and Vach's guy, and I'm kind of, on the fence about it a little bit. But how many day one starters do you think that we actually got defensively, out of this draft, out of those 11 picks?
Oh, I fear the answer might be one. Now, I do think, again, like if you go a year from now, I think there's a decent chance it's 2 starting linebackers. Odighizuwa is a starter. Depending on if Randy Gregory's still here, I think Chauncey Golston can be an NFL starter. But that's further down the road. What you hope, or at least what I hope, and I think what most people hope, because we all want young people to play because there's so much more perceived upside where it's like, man, if the young guy takes a job from a vet, he must be balling. He must be doing great. So the hope would be that Kelvin Joseph, when they get to camp, takes the starting left cornerback job. That would be the hope. But as of today, if you had to guess and it's week 1, I mean, you might be going Anthony Brown, Trevon Diggs, Jordan Lewis. So I think it's a decent chance you have one day one starter.
Right. And that was my frustration. Because we do so many mocks. We do so much draft content. We see what's available, and I feel like we missed the mark because I feel like it's kind of like when I always get the analogy, right? You go to the grocery store, you tell your wife, your girlfriend, whoever, go to the grocery store and get stuff where you're making spaghetti tonight, and they come back with everything except meatballs and noodles and salt. Like, they didn't get what we actually need to come back with. So I feel like when I look at this draft, it's like, all right, because we were so going back and forth, whether it was J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain or, some people were saying Farley. So we really thought that we're going to get a corner. And I blame you guys for putting this doomsday scenario out in the air. Like, you gave us bad mojo because it actually happened. Because it wasn't until like the leading week up to the draft, you started hearing this doomsday scenario. I was like, there ain't no way that's going to happen. Nah. And then lo and behold, we're sitting there on draft day. And boom, a cloud of dust. And
my fear every time I did that was like, man, and they might take Micah Parsons. And then and that's the thing about the draft, right? Is you have what you think and want them to do. Uh-huh. And then there's what actually happens. And then once it happens, it's like, okay, now I'm not spinning this for you guys. I'm just telling you like who these players are. I didn't want to take Micah Parsons with a top 10, top 12 pick because I wouldn't want to take an off-ball linebacker that currently doesn't thrive as a coverage guy. I wouldn't want to take that high in a draft. Right. They took an incredible coverage linebacker, which is what I'm more into, and they got him in the 4th round. Like they got the best run defending linebacker in the draft at number 12 and the best pass defending linebacker in the draft in the 4th round. And that wasn't the position that I wanted them to pick. But then you got to kind of talk people off the ledge where it's like, look, I didn't want them to do this. But it doesn't mean that Micah Parsons isn't a kick-ass prospect.
Exactly.
Like the dude has the ceiling to be one of the best linebackers in football. He could be incredible. And I tell you what, the guy that you're on the fence on, I think that I know why they picked him. Because the Cowboys...
Talk me off the edge, Jeff. Come on, talk me off the edge.
Well, it's not going to talk you off the edge at all. It's going to it's going to make you feel worse. But
I'm about to jump.
They thought they were taking a corner too. Mm-hmm. At 10, they thought they were taking a corner. Mm-hmm. And when they were gone, and it was like, okay, who's our best player available? Their best player available was Parsons. And they knew that they could control where Devontae Smith went and still get Parsons if they moved back 2 spots. So they did. Right. But once they didn't get the corner they thought they were going to get, they did what the Cowboys do. They got to the 2nd round and they looked around the room and they said, hey, who is the super talented dude that if everything was perfect wouldn't be here? And the answer was Kelvin Joseph. Like if Kelvin Joseph played 2 or 3 years at one school and never had a problem with the coaching staff and had no question, like just the talent alone, he'd go in the first 32 picks. It's what they did with Jalen Smith. They got stuck at number 34 and they went, his talent's awesome. And somebody's raising their hand like, right, what about the fact he only has one leg? And they're like, right, but his tape is awesome. So we're going to take him and maybe it'll be great. They did it with Randy Gregory, where it was like, well, he's, and they were like, right, but he could be a really good pass rusher. We're getting in the second round. The Cowboys try to steal value when they get desperate. And I think that's what happened with Kelvin Joseph. So you do have to keep an eye on the fact that 2 coaching staffs in college were like, don't want him, don't need him. But what they did is they took a big swing because they were like, we thought we were going to get a first-round corner. So how can we still get a first-round corner? And the answer was Kelvin Joseph.
Or Damonte Samuel Jr. But that's not the fact. Like I said, now that he's here, like I said, but that was my, the same reason you said. Now, you said a lot different than how I said it on draft day because, the way I said it was a lot different. But I felt like it was a huge gamble. It's high risk, high reward when it comes to Kelvin Joseph. And so we have to hope, because here's what I've been saying, Jeff. I feel like from the Dallas Cowboys standpoint, since we really didn't address the secondary, which we'll talk about here in a second, in free agency, and we kind of stumble in with Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis. We have Kennedy coming back. Reggie Robinson's moving back to corner. There's still a huge question mark, and I thought that at least one thing that we knew coming out the draft, we were going to address that position and have that CB2. Right now, I feel like we don't have the CB2 because just like you just mentioned, we have Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis. Bossman Fat, he could be possibly fighting for CB4, CB3s because we're hearing a lot of great things coming out of Nashon Wright. Now, granted, Kelvin Joseph just had COVID and some other things going on, so he really didn't get to show his full skill set yet at OTAs, and so he's going to be one of those guys we definitely have to keep an eye on at camp. But as things currently stand, he is fighting for position. Now, I dropped a video earlier today, Jeff, and I'm going to ask you this because you're one of the best people to kind of speak on this. And the conversation came up today. What do you think of the possibility of moving Kelvin Joseph to safety?
Oh, I think I would have to watch him with fresh eyes to think about that possibility, because I think he could do that. I think Kelvin Joseph could be a free safety. He's definitely got the speed and the range for it. He's definitely, because you can watch him in college and you can see him on tape, not in the middle third, but you can watch him on a third of a field, bait people, play one receiver, even though he knows where the next guy is. So he's going to go pick it off when you let it go. Right. I think he has the physical abilities. My only thing about that is, for me, I guess if you have a kick-ass, like if you have Earl Thomas or Ed Reed, if you have a real-life center fielder that can just erase anybody's screw-ups, they're incredibly valuable. But for the most part, I would say my outside corner is more valuable than my free safety. So, like, for me, I want corners to fail to safety as opposed to intentionally putting one there.
Okay.
Like Byron Jones, they should have played him at corner from the get-go, because corner is so important and so valuable that if he can do it, I don't think there's a reason to put him at safety. Now, for the Cowboys, people might feel differently just because they've ignored safety for so damn long.
Exactly.
But
I think we're getting desperate. I think as Cowboys fans, we're just like, can we put somebody back there and like convert? Because, shouts out to my guy, Professor O, man, he brought up the fact that Kelvin Joseph coming in and out of high school was a top 5 safety recruit before he went to LSU. And so the intangibles, the mindset is there. And be honest, like you said, he played at LSU. Then, some things happened. He went to Kentucky. So he's still kind of green as a corner because he only had about 14, 15 games. And so we're saying if he could possibly be converted, that would make a lot more sense because we're trying to get the best players on the field at the same time. And if he's going to be a rotational 4th corner, then maybe you talk him back there with KZ, and that would make a lot more sense to get him more on the field.
My guy for that is actually Jordan Lewis.
Okay.
Because I think Jordan Lewis is definitely physical enough and aggressive enough to play safety. And he's been in the league for 4 years, and he hasn't been, I know there's a lot of Jordan Lewis fan club out there. I was one coming into the league. I like Jordan Lewis. I like him personally, and I like his attitude. But 4 years in the league, he hadn't beat out Anthony Brown yet. He's had 4 cracks at it, and he's lost 4 times in a camp battle. And now he might win by default because Anthony Brown might play outside. But if you put Jordan Lewis back there, I kind of like that better. If I could get, now I need Boss Man Fat to come win a damn job. And then I could still have Anthony Brown playing where he's played for a long time over Jordan Lewis. And I could have Trevon Diggs. Like, I can make it work that way. Although, you know, all that aside, ideally, KZ is worthy of playing back there. And you just have corner depth, because I promise you, you're going to need 5 of them. Like, you will have a corner hurt in the year, probably every week. One of your corners will be hurt because it's what happens. And you're going to need 4, 5, 6 corners. So, but Jordan Lewis is the name that I've always floated as. I'm curious what he would look like at safety.
Right. And I think we've always kind of, you know, danced with that idea, because I know there was conversation, I think, last year about either Jordan Lewis going to safety or possibly even Cheeto when he was here, but they really haven't made the move. But like you said, it's like maybe an outside corner, especially the way things currently stand, is more important than the free safety position. I think this comes to Cowboys fan. We just never had one. So we're just trying to find anything. It's some answer. But, you know, I'm personally high on KZ. My only concern about KZ is coming off the injury. You know, if something was to break with that, all right, where does that really leave us? Because, I mean, you have J-Ron Curse, but is he really a free safety? Can you say that? And so it's like, all right, if something happens with KZ, what do we do? You might have to slide Donovan Wilson back to free. He's not really a coverage guy. So it's like.
And I do think that's what they'd have to do, because there is no one else.
Right.
There's no one else. So you would be moving KZ or Curse back there. You would, I don't know. There is a lot of eggs in the Damonte Kazee basket. And that is a little bit scary coming off an Achilles. The only thing that makes me feel a little bit better about that is the number of guys at the OTAs and the mini camp that they were holding out. Like, everyone who had an off-season surgery was held out. Amari, Tyron, Lyle. I'm missing an offensive lineman there. Martin, but I don't know if he had a surgery. I'm sure he had something cleaned up because he always has to. But like, all those guys were watching, like they were on the side, they were working with the trainers, like they're going to slow roll it. But Dak was out there and KZ was out there full go. Now, not 11 on 11 for Dak, but that makes me feel pretty good about those guys. Plus, I know that they signed KZ because they brought in 2 Achilles dudes, and KZ, they went, he's going to be ready. Hooker, I don't think he's going to be ready. So they signed the guy that they thought was going to be ready.
Now, does the 1-year deal concern you about KZ? That it was only kind of a 1-year prove-it deal? Or do you think that was kind of brought in due to possibly the cap is going up next year? Or what was the reason behind that?
The money makes me, I think it should make everybody pretty nervous about KZ, because when you look at not only the total, and his total's what, like $1.5 million, something like that?
Right. It's extremely low.
And his guaranteed money is like one of our paychecks.
Right.
And I just remember when they brought in Clinton Dix.
Exactly.
He was guaranteed, I did this a while back, but I believe it was 15 times what KZ has been guaranteed, and he didn't make it out of camp. So I'm like, when you're talking about a guy who's on a 1-year deal for 1.5 and the guaranteed money is, I forget what it is, it's like $150,000. Like, nothing is guaranteed. Like, normally, if you told me that's a veteran they signed and you gave me his contract numbers, I'd be like, well, if he has an incredible camp, maybe he makes the team. So, like, that part of it, the contract part of it, makes me go, ooh, they are really banking on that?
Right. Exactly.
So we'll see.
Exactly. We'll see. We'll get to Oxnard and see. So I'm going to chime in the chat, man. Shouts out to everyone in the chat. Like I said, keep the questions coming. I got my guy, Matt O. He says, so this is player, I think he's out of North Carolina. Correct me if I'm wrong. Storm Duck from next year's draft. Have you heard of this kid? Storm Duck. That, I don't know. Everyone's talking about Storm Duck next year for the Cowboys. Is
it a safety?
I think he's a corner. Is he a corner or a safety? I don't know.
If there's a guy that's projected to go like in the top 8 picks next year, I might know his name. If not, I probably don't yet.
Yeah, so you know Stingley Jr. That's
I know Stingley. I know Thibodeau, the defensive end at Oregon. I know Spencer Rattler. There's some other guys, I'm sure. I know other quarterback names. Oh, I know Meacham, because every time I watch Alabama receivers, I'm like, hey, why isn't that guy coming out? 2 years ago or a year ago when I was watching tape, I was like, man, Devontae Smith is better than Ruggs and Judy. Why isn't he coming out? And he just wasn't. And then this year, I was like, who is this guy that's making all the plays? And it's a dude that wasn't eligible to be drafted yet. So I know him.
Exactly. Not yet. They said, what's up, my guy, Mr. Action, BJ Nix, what's going on, Carson? I see you, bro. Mendoza says, what's up, guys? Jacob says, what's better than Vach and Jeff? J Tuck and Jeff. fire.
Shots
Vach is
fired
clean,
at Vach.
Yeah, shots up to Vach, man. Vach is my guy, man. We go back and forth on Twitter a little bit. I gotta have Vach on here soon. Why can't we have packages? Okay, let me ask you this question. So Arturo asked this question. Why can't we have packages? It's a long season. There's plenty of good players. People do get hurt. So we'll talk about that here in a second, about different packages in Dan Quinn's scheme, because you're going to see some of these players in rotation. And I think that's the one thing you can kind of pinpoint as far as this draft. It gave us a lot more depth than what we currently had in-house. I'm on the Super Bowl bandwagon. I really feel it. Pump the brakes. Shouts out to Dallas Cowboys Uncensored. What's up, my guys? Safety market was down across the league this year. COVID still. So doesn't account for how much he got. Maybe that's a little bit of both. I think they're talking about KZ. Mendoza, it says Storm is actually pretty good. Top 3 name of all time. Jordan Battle. Guys, Spoonie, what's going on? So let me ask you about this. So we kind of talked about the Dan Quinn factor, right? And a lot of people have been hitting me up about this idea. And I kind of said this before, but I really haven't dove into it until a few weeks ago. But it seems like Dan Quinn typically fixes the defense when it comes to the rush defense, but in some cases he breaks the pass defense. And so if you kind of look historically, and I'm not talking about when he was at Seattle, but I'm talking about his time from 2015 at the Falcons, rush defense, okay, they were top 15, top 20-ish for the most part, but their pass defense was horrendous. And so do you think that's going to be the case, or do you think by having, Witt in house and also Edwards in house, those guys kind of helping with the pass coordination defense are going to help push that defense forward? Because that's my biggest concern, right? We fix the run defense, okay, we're perfectly fine. But all of a sudden, we're getting aired out versus Kansas City, and it's just a spiraling downhill effect. So what's your thoughts on that?
So my thing about Dan Quinn is, holy cow, I feel like there's 900 directions you can talk about what they might do on defense. My worry is that I'm optimistic about Dan Quinn because I can hear guys talk and I can hear from people who know that person. And like Dan Quinn, it didn't take long for me to be like, this guy knows what he's doing. Like this dude is like, he's hands-on. He's like Mike Nolan, he took a job to have a job because he was like, sweet, thanks for the job. Right. Like Dan Quinn is just like, he has a passion for this. Whatever he is doing in that moment, he has a passion for doing that. He wants to be hands-on working with the defensive line. Like, I think that he's a good coach. The tough part about that is you do look back at his years when he didn't have 4 Hall of Famers on his defense, and you're like, where were the results?
Exactly.
And so like, it's almost like, when I think a lot of Cowboy fans got excited about Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe being signed, and I know McCoy didn't make it to the season, but you took 2 defensive tackles off of a terrible run defense team, and because people like to be optimistic about their team, you thought they were going to help you. Right. And it's like, wait, but they were awful last year. Right. So part of my brain goes there with Dan Quinn, and here's my other biggest concern about Dan Quinn, and this is Steve Sarkisian's fault. He's jaded me. In theory, Dan Quinn is going to run a bunch of cover 3, where you have a free safety who has a deep third, your corners have a deep third, and you have 4 underneath guys, right? Mm-hmm. Problem is that the NFL is going more and more run pass option, read a linebacker, show him a fake. If he's moving, throw the ball. Cover 3 gets torched by RPOs. Torched. Right. And I think that's the way the NFL is going. And so part of me is like, oh no, are you about to run a system that's becoming antiquated in a hurry? So like, I like him. I believe he's a really smart dude. So I would believe he'd be adaptable to not let his defense get killed by simple ideas. But I think his lack of results in the last few years, like that part of it makes me go, am I talking myself into this? Or do I really believe that they're going to be a decent, I don't think they're going to be a good defense, but a decent defense.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's just blind optimism because I feel like you can't get no worse. Well, I mean, actually, you can get worse than we last year if the pass defense reverts back to the last in the NFL and also with the run defense.
It'd be hard to be worse. 29.6 a game. That's a big-ass number.
It'd be hard. But, I mean, let's knock on wood because, man, if they do get worse than that, man, I don't know what to say. But I feel like for the most part, Dan Quinn is playing with house money. But it's like, what is going to be the Dan Quinn effect? Like, is he really going to push the defense back to what it was before it got broken last year? Or will it kind of be more 2018 or even better than what we had in 2018? So will we see a leap, or is it going to be like, all right, I fixed it. We're not as bad as last year, but we're still maybe top 20 in rush defense and maybe 15 in pass defense. Now, of course, I'm an offensive guy. You're an offensive guy. You're kind of the founder of Team 40 Burgers. I think that'll be okay. It'll be much better, having Dak back, and if the offense is able to stay healthy, if we're able to get top 20 in both categories. But I feel like that's not enough. I think a lot of Cowboys fans, and self included, would like to see an actual push forward in the right direction when it comes to our defense. So do you think that Dan Quinn is going to be able to do that in year one? Just looking out for history, he hasn't.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing would be, I don't think they can be worse, because last year's Cowboy defense, there's a bare minimum baseline for being a professional. And the Cowboys last year didn't look like anybody on that defense was doing that except Tank Lawrence, and sometimes Alden Smith, and sometimes Randy Gregory, and sometimes Trevon Diggs, and sometimes Donovan Wilson. But the amount of guys who they literally look lost, like they didn't know their job. The simplest thing in football is that when they snap the ball, each player has a gap assignment. Somebody is responsible for between the center and the guard and the tackle. We all have a gap assignment. They couldn't do that. So, all I need is a dude who can literally make sure that the players know what the call is and where to stand, and you're moving in the right direction. I don't think that the Cowboys have, in relation to the rest of the NFL, they don't have a talented defense. Tank Lawrence is really good. Randy Gregory might be a good pass rusher. Micah Parsons might be an impact rookie. Trevon Diggs might be an above average starter this year, but you're counting on a lot of either unknowns or have never been average or better NFL starters to be good if you think the Cowboys defense is going to be good.
Exactly.
You are counting on what Pro Football Focus and whatever you think about them has ranked as the 31st secondary out of 32. If you're counting on that to be good, that's tough.
Right.
That's tough.
Right. And so my guy, Keanu Adams, he brought up a good point, and thanks for subscribing. I just saw the notification, but so you're starting to see some of these players, and I saw your tweet, Jeff, and I was like, I'm not going to ask you about one player. So I'll cut you some slack, right?
What did I do?
But there's some other players out there who kind of having some issues where there's contract disagreements or whatnot, and they're not showing up to camp. One that he's frequently brought up is Xavier Howard from Miami. Do you think that if things Well, actually, let me ask you a two-part question. Do you think the Cowboys will bring in another veteran corner or secondary player going into camp? Or will it kind of be a Amari Cooper situation where we're going to play what we have in-house, and if things get bad, then that's when they're going to pull the trigger and bring in that guy, so there's not so many unknowns when it comes to the secondary specifically?
My guess is at corner, they're not going to bring anybody in, only because, follow my exercise here, let's say what they were running out at OTAs, right? And it's Jordan Lewis in the slot, it's Anthony Brown, and it's Trevon Diggs on the outside. And then on your football team, a lot of times you're going to have 6 guys make the team. So at the moment, those would be your top 3. Then you have a second-round pick and a third-round pick. You have a second-year 4th-round pick and Reggie Robinson. You have a guy that opted out last year that's still under contract and Maurice Kennedy. You have, that's 7. You have C.J. Goodwin, who's been on this team for how long as a special teamer? That's 8. And so, I could see it. If you had, if Richard Sherman just called and was like, hey, I want to play for cheap, I'd be like, sure, come on in. You're the starting left corner until somebody takes it from you or whatever. I would be interested in that. But I think they're going to look at it as, I got 3 vets that I'm good with. I've got at least 2 rookies and then second-year guys and our special team. They got guys.
Right.
Safety?
Like our guys?
Maybe. They don't give a crap about safety. And they do. And they do. They just...
when Stephen Jones had his post-draft interview, I think it was on day 2.
And he was giggling about it.
Yeah, he giggled about it. And I was like...
and then he lied about it.
Then he lied about it,
because what he was talking about was like it just didn't happen for us because what he wanted to happen was Trevon Merrick to make it to 44. You got jumped.
Right.
And so
you let the Raiders jump right in front of you, and then you, I don't want to say settle, but you didn't get your guy.
correct.
And so, and he addressed it that way, and it's just like, all right, man. So it's just with the draft capital that we had in that draft, there was no excuse if we had a guy that was sliding to us. You know, we didn't have the capital to jump up and just go get our guys and move on. Like, and that's my biggest frustration with the draft. I feel like there was a lot of settling, and I feel like what happened was we got cute because of what happened in 2020. Because we were able to sit back and, oh, CeeDee Lamb, your CeeDee Lamb reaction, my CeeDee Lamb, like whole Cowboys Nation CeeDee Lamb reaction.
Oh, sweet.
Then, day two. Oh, well, here's a Trayvon Diggs. Just falls into your lap. And so I think the Cowboys were just kind of sitting back on day two like, oh, Trayvon Morgan's just going to fall into our lap and we'll get our safety. But even when that didn't happen, we still didn't address the damn safety position. There were so many players, whether it was Jamar Johnson, Darius Washington, you were high on, I was high on.
Seventh round. We could have had Mighty Mouse in the 7th.
Just could have wasted a pick. Just throw away pick on a Darius Washington and brought him into camp. But it's like, all right, so they didn't address it. Like I said, and then when Stephen Jones laughed about it, I was like, they just don't care about this safety position. And so, like you said, we're really leaning on, Damonte Kazee to really be that guy. And so we'll see. So you mentioned a few things about camp battles, and we'll dive into that quickly. And I want to bring up a name, Trysten Hill. Do you think Trysten Hill is on an uphill battle to make the final 53 roster this year based on what we brought in house with Osa? You have Golston, you have so many different players that we brought in that fits more Dan Quinn's mold. And so Trysten Hill's going, third different defensive coordinator. Where do you think the Cowboys stand with Trysten Hill?
Okay, so I'm going to be firing off the top of my head. I don't have a roster pulled up or anything, but
okay.
The defensive line battles are going to be really good. Because if you had to guess, I would guess they'll keep up to 10 defensive linemen, right?
Okay.
So Tank Lawrence, Randy Gregory,
right?
Brent Urban,
yep.
Neville Gallimore,
4,
Odigizua, Golston. Third-round picks are making your football team.
Exactly.
Basham.
7.
I'm trying not to forget any names. Anai, maybe. Like, you're going to have Anai versus Dorrance Armstrong and Trysten Hill versus Carlos Watkins. There's going to be a couple of those 4 names I think don't make the team. And so when I made my guess at a 53-man roster, let me pull it up. What am I doing here? Let me do that. Let me close that. Okay. So I tried to make a guess at a 53-man roster, and it looks like this. Here we go. So defensive line on the edge, I put Tank Lawrence, Randy Gregory, Terrell Basham, Chauncey Golston, Bradley, and I. On the interior, I went Neville Gallimore, Odigizua, Brent Urban, Quentin Bohanna.
Oh, yeah, Bohanna.
And Carlos Watkins. So the Carlos Watkins and the Bradley and I, to me, would be the 2 that would be in danger for like Trysten Hill or Dorrance Armstrong, or am I missing anybody else on the D-line? But like, they're not going to keep 12 of them.
Right.
So Trysten Hill could make the team. It would just mean like one of the old head vets, like maybe Watkins doesn't make the team, or it's weird how safe we think a 6th-round guy is in Bohanna just because they don't have any other 350-pound dude.
We just want a nose tackle for so long. Like, all right, Bo, you're in, bro. Like they cannot get rid of Bo because the Cowboys fans, we become,
Not only is he in, we're starting him when it's a 3-man line.
I see people like that. They're like, oh, man, he's starting day one. Him and Britt I'm like, let's pump the brakes. But I get it because especially going through what we went through with Poe, and especially with these linebackers, which we'll talk about here in a second, you want to keep them clean. So, and Big Bo's going to be one of those guys you're definitely going to need. So
it can get tight. It can get tight on Trysten Hill.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. It's like with Trysten Hill, it's like I'm rooting for Trysten Hill because I like where I saw flashes out of Trysten Hill last year, switching from, going from Marinelli to Mike Nolan, and Tom Sula to now, Dan Quinn. And I feel like the fight is there, but it's just like, I just don't know where he fits. And so he's definitely going to be one of those guys. Every rep is going to matter out there in Oxnard and throughout the preseason because, it's getting kind of tight.
Well, and one of my favorite words when you're talking about guys who are going to make a team or not is the word sponsor. I got it from Broadus, where it's like, does a player have a sponsor? And so you think about Nashawn Wright, right? Nashawn Wright, you got picked 99th overall. And if you guys want completely 100% real information, I will tell you this. The Cowboys scouts did not want to pick Nashawn Wright at number 99 overall. They didn't. They wanted to pick Jabril Cox. And they let Dan Quinn make the pick. Dan Quinn picked Nashawn Wright. So that's how, when day 3 started, I said, if Jabril Cox is available with their next pick, they're picking him. Because I knew they tried to pick him the night before. So Nashawn Wright has a sponsor because he was picked by a guy. Oso Odigizua, if you go number 75 overall, and a lot of people think you might go in the 4th round, that D coordinator is your sponsor. You're safe. Tristan Hill, his own sponsor quit on him. Rod Marinelli picked Tristan Hill. And Rod Marinelli, the way I understand it, is about halfway into, was it his rookie year? Rod Marinelli quit on him. He was like, nah, I was wrong. And so, like, your sponsor is not only no longer in town, your original sponsor quit you.
Right.
And that's tough.
Exactly. Yeah. Who's going to vouch for Tristan? So, and that's the thing. I mean, if you ever play any type of sports, you got to have someone's going to kind of, that's my guy. I need him for this reason. But if everyone's sitting back, it's like, well, he ain't my guy. He's not my guy. It's like if you go to a bar or a house party, it's like someone got to vouch for you and say he's with me. But so Tristan Hill might not have that. So he's definitely someone we got to keep an eye on. Now, you mentioned another name. This is a name that I see frequently mentioned as well. Bradley Anae, and he was one of those names. Was he at OTAs? Because he was extremely quiet surrounding Bradley Anae. I didn't hear much about him. So was he?
I didn't either. I think if he wasn't there, I would know. But I'm with you in that I didn't hear anything reported about him in terms of like standing out or who was he running with or whatever. I did not hear those things, and I did hear about Basham, and I did hear about Chauncey Golston, and I did hear a lot about Brent Urban. So, like, there's a lot of dudes I heard a lot about, and Anae wasn't one of them. And I think a lot of the Bradley Anae stuff, like last year, there's a Bradley Anae fan club out there, and I think us in the draft community are partially responsible for it because, like, when you have a guy who's like a 3rd-round grade and he gets picked in the 5th or 6th, then I think a lot of people are like, oh, that Anae, that's a steal. He's going to be really, really good. But they didn't play him at all. So, like,
one play against the Giants I saw, and he actually read the bootleg perfectly fine. And that was it.
So, like, there's a chance that I'm wrong, and Bradley and I ain't making the team. I'm really, because, like, Dorrance Armstrong last year, because he played special teams, was their 4th edge, and he was active every game day. So that's just one of my guesses where I'm like, I think Bradley and I is a better pass rusher than Dorrance Armstrong. So I think that ultimately he'll make the team as, like, the last edge guy to make the team. But I could be wrong. Because a lot of times there's guys that we like in the draft, and once you get a year or 2 removed from that, if a guy hadn't touched the field, like, sometimes you got to let your priors go and say, maybe I was wrong. And what they're seeing in practice is not what we saw on tape, and he's not going to make it. But I've got him as a guy that's competing to just make the team.
Just make the team. And just going back to what you and Broadus said, who's his sponsor? And it's like, they're not in-house anymore. So let me ask you this, because this has been kind of the question around Dan Quinn's scheme. So we hear about the 4-3 under, which is notorious he ran in Seattle and also, when he was in Atlanta. But he always says about, traces of a 3-4. So a lot of Cowboys fans, they heard that. It's like, oh, we're going to be a 3-4. It's not going to be that. It's going to be more of a 4-3 under. So can you explain what actually the scheme will look like for a lot of the people watching this channel?
I can try, because I think the most important thing when people talk about 3-4 and 4-3 is to realize that on 80% of the snaps, throw that crap out the window. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. We're going to be in a nickel.
You're going to be playing with 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 3 corners, 2 safeties. So throw it all out the window. But if it's 1st and 10 and the team is using 2 tight ends or a tight end and a fullback, then I still don't think it's important to draw a distinction between the actual numbers of 4-3 and 3-4. What matters is, are you playing 1 gap? Are you playing 2 gap? Like, what are you asking your players to do? Mm-hmm. But the idea of a 3-4 or a 4-3 under would be that you could actually use some of your linebacker toys. You could use more of them, because Randy Gregory was talking about how he is this team's right defensive end, right? When you're
Right.
four-man line, Randy Gregory is the right defensive end, Tank Lawrence is the left defensive end. But he also said he's playing Sam. So in my mind, what that means is we'll draw up a pretend formation. And the pretend formation is going to have Tank Lawrence playing a 5 technique end. So he's lined up over the right tackle. Right. And then you're going to have, we can throw Quentin Bohanna or Brent Urban in as a defensive tackle. And then I'll throw in Oso Digizua as an end. And when you line up like this, what you can do is Randy Gregory is your, quote, Sam linebacker. Mm-hmm. So he's lined up outside of Tank Lawrence, wherever the tight end is.
Right.
Now you can put Micah Parsons at what they call the Leo, and it's called Leo because the L is linebacker and the E is end. It's a hybrid. Right. It's something in between. And so now you can set it up where, because Randy Gregory is a good pass rusher and Micah Parsons is a good pass rusher, you don't necessarily know who's coming and who's not, and who's dropping and who's not. So like that's the picture, because then you can have Gregory's there. Parsons could be rushing the passer. Now you can throw in Keanu Neal and Van Der Esch, or Jalen Smith and Van Der Esch, or Keanu, whatever. And it's a way to get more linebackers on the field, but it doesn't matter 80% of the time.
Because we're going to play a nickel.
Yep.
Right. So let me put you on the spot. So when it comes to the nickel position that we'll primarily be playing, we have Parsons. We pretty much can ink him in, because I feel like he's going to be linebacker 1. Like, I feel like you do not take Micah Parsons at 12 and he's going to be off the field and passing downs. That's not the case. So who is going to get the other nod? Is it going to be Jalen? Is it going to be Keanu Neal, Van Der Esch? Who primarily will we see, do you think, next to Parsons?
I think they're all going to play.
Okay.
But if I had to guess, I'm with you in that I believe Micah Parsons will be your middle linebacker. Right. And I believe Leighton Van Der Esch will be your weak side linebacker. And then I believe Keanu Neal will be playing snaps as the weak side linebacker, especially when it's third down. Because that's the tough part, is trying to balance this out and Van Der Esch had really good OTA minicamp. Like he had a good week or 2 weeks or however many days. But I go back to the sponsor thing. Like, didn't Dan Quinn bring in Keanu Neal because that's his guy?
Right, and his translator.
Like, Keanu Neal is not going to be watching a ton of football. So I don't know how it plays out. But and part of me thinks on the very first snap in nickel, it might be Jalen and Van Der Esch. But in my heart of hearts and my brain of brains, with Dan Quinn and a first-round pick, I'm thinking it's Parsons and Neal.
Right.
And so I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
A lot to be continued, Cowboys fan, because like I said, it's so many moving pieces. Like I said, not until we get to the camp and preseason, things are going to start to shake out, because we kind of heard rumors about possibly the Cowboys were thinking about moving on from Van Der Esch and Jalen in the draft. I'm not sure how much validity you can give to that, but like I said, me personally, this was a concern I had last year, Jeff, to be honest with you, was the depth of the linebacker position. Now we have an abundance, at the linebacker position, but now we're bare at the cornerback position. So it's like, all right, so, got to give and take a little bit. But, I'm excited to see how Dan Quinn's going to work all these pieces, because you mentioned, Keanu Neal, Van Der Esch, Jalen Smith, Parsons, but you also forgot about Cox as well.
And so that's the best coverage linebacker you got.
Exactly. So you're definitely going to see him out there, and especially in coverage, and especially with these high-octane offenses. My guy, Matt O, says PFF classifies Leo as the left end outside, as in fully outside of the right tackle, not shading. Right end outside is the same, but on the right side. So. Well,
it depends, because what Leo stands for, linebacker, and it's a hybrid spot, right? And the Leo would play the opposite side of the Sam linebacker. So if the tight end is on the right side, then the Leo is going to be opposite the tight end. So tell Pro Football Focus to shut up.
There you go. Boom.
Sam
boom.
plays strong. Leo plays the opposite of Sam.
There you go. And there's so many like technical terms when it comes to football, breaking down football. And like I've been trying to kind of teach on this channel slowly but surely.
And there's different versions. Like I'm sure there is a version of the Leo in somebody's defense that it literally stands for left, like he's on the left side. But
exactly.
But
language installs and verbiage.
Yeah, the Dan Quinn defense, if you wanted to see like a Dan Quinn 4-3 under Seattle style, you would see the Sam goes to the strong side, the Leo goes to the weak side, and then the Mike and the Will are your off ball in between them.
Exactly. Now, enough with all this defense talk, man. Like I said, I'm an offensive guy.
Offense is going to be good.
Yeah, offense is where we need to talk. Team 40 Burgers in the building, man. So I want to talk about offense as well because you mentioned, Pro Football Focus. But I want to play a little quick game with you, Jeff. Over and under. So they had a few stats of the expectations of the offensive players. So they had Dak Prescott, Zeke, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup. So I want to play over and under. Y'all can play in the chat too. Definitely let me know. So it has Dak throwing for 4,600 yards. Over or under for Dak Prescott throwing for 4,600?
I think ideally you would want him to be somewhere around there because like 5,500 doesn't necessarily mean that he's having a better year. It might just mean you're getting your ass kicked.
From behind again. Yeah.
I will take 4,600. You got a 17th game now. In 16 games, he threw for 4,900, but that was with the worst special teams and defense in the league and the worst starting field position, so there was more yards to be had. 4,600. Over, barely.
Over, barely. Let's see. I got an over. Got two overs in the chat. I will say...
I like that you're thinking about it because I talk to a lot of people on the YouTube and I'm just like, you're just a fan. Like you are just cheering for the Cowboys.
Oh yeah.
You are not analyzing the Cowboys.
I heard some people like, 6,000 yards. Like none, because I feel like Dak shouldn't be throwing that much. And I'm thinking from the perspective as that week 17 game, we're going to be resting our starters anyway because we're going to be preparing for the playoffs. So that's where I'm thinking in consideration.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say under for Dak Prescott on the 4,600, but just barely. I would say around 45, give or take, possibly.
Last year, 4,800 led the league, and it was because it was Deshaun Watson on a team that was getting their ass kicked every week.
Right, playing from behind.
Pat threw for 47.
47.
So 46, even with the 17th game. Yeah, I think that's the ballpark.
Okay. Let's move on to Ezekiel Elliott. So we've been hearing great things about Zeke coming out of camp. We heard Dak say he's in the best shape of his life. He's a lot leaner. We're seeing the videos kind of play out with Zeke. So it has 1,465 for Zeke. Over or under for Zeke for rushing yards?
It's 14 what?
1465.
Under.
Yeah, I would say under as well.
I
would say...
And I don't care. I want to say that too. I don't dislike running back. Running back is important, and I want to have a really, really good one. I would just never give a second contract to a running back because I believe it is more about your blocking than it is about your running back. There are some running backs who can transcend that, and Zeke in his prime was one of them, like Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, guys who literally break tackles, and we can measure it, and we can be like, holy crap, he had this many yards after contact. He had this many forced missed tackles. Like, those are really good things that I want on my team. And I think Zeke can get some of that back, but the only thing I care about with Zeke is the per attempt. Like, I don't care that he won the rushing title as a rookie. He led the league in rushing attempts. You should lead the league in rushing. So to me, it's how many times is he going to carry the ball? And I don't want him to carry the ball 350 times. I want him to carry the ball 250 times. I care about his yards per attempt. I care about his conversion rates on third down and in the red zone.
Fourth downs as well.
Yes, I don't care about his total rushing yards, but this is going to be a pass-first offense, and I bet Pollard plays 20 to 30% of the snaps. So I don't think Zeke's going to get 350 carries. I don't think it's going to be an absurd number. So I think he'll run for like 1,250 to 1,300.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I would say about 1,100, 12 tops, because I feel like they should be utilizing Tony Pollard a lot more in this offense to take the burden off of Ezekiel Elliott. Like I said, for me personally, I want to see kind of like Zeke being that closer, the wild thing, right? If you watch Major League, right? In the fourth quarter, when it's time to really take the air out of the ball, let's close and get out with the victory. That's when we bring in Ezekiel Elliott. We kind of just run teams down and get out with the victory. But I see, like, for the most part, you should see a lot more split carries between Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, and not just traditional carries when it comes to Tony Pollard. I want to see touches from Tony Pollard, whether it's in the passing game, whether it's in the screen game, whether it's return, like, just get the ball in his hands and let Tony Pollard get in space and do what he does best. And so I don't think that Zeke is going to be that, what we see in the Jason Garrett era, we having the ball 30 to 40, 50 times and kind of just hammer away. That's going to be gone. But of course, a lot of people, big media, they like to run with the air, the idea that Zeke is washed and he's, past his prime if he doesn't win the rushing title, right? But I feel like for the most part, 1,200 yards, being efficient on third down, fourth down in the red zone, that's where we're going to need Ezekiel Elliott the most. The next one is an interesting topic, and shouts out to my guy Nix. We had a bet on this last year, and I lost just slightly though. Amari Cooper, 1,100 yards receiving.
Oh man, if he's healthy, that's an easy over.
Okay.
Health is the only question. I mean, we hadn't even got to camp yet, and his ankle's messed up.
Right.
If he's healthy, over. If he's not, under. I'll project him to miss 2 or 3 games, and hadn't he gone, like, he goes over every damn year. All he does.
I mean, he gets 1,000. I mean, 1,000's, is easy for Coop. So
yeah, we got an extra game in the last 2 years. He's gone 1189 and 1114. So I'll go, as long as he plays at least 15 games, I'll go over.
Over. That's the thing.
He gets 130 targets, man.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, Steve Lupton said push. I think I'm thinking, like, you're right around that threshold. I would say, yeah, injuries definitely going to take into consideration. I'm going to say under for Amari Cooper.
If he plays 15 games, over. Book it. Book it.
15, yeah, if 15 games over, less than 15 games, of course, under. But it's like, because we're hearing, was it high ankle sprains? Is it a high ankle?
No, it was he had a surgery on his ankle. Okay. In January after the season. And we are now 5 months removed from that, and he still wasn't practicing because they said it was irritated. So I'm like, man, does that just mean it's going to be irritated forever? And he's just going to tough it out like he always does? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the under.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to take under. I don't like the sounds of that, man, because
me neither.
Like ankle injuries and foot injuries, man, they're nagging throughout the season. I'm going to go under for Amari Cooper. Now the next guy, CD Lamb.
Over.
Actually,
over.
Yeah, over.
Don't care what the number is. Over.
I feel like they set the bar too low for CD Lamb, but I'm gonna take the over. And the bet, I bet I had last year with Jeff was that CD Lamb was gonna have more yards than Amari Cooper. Now, granted, that didn't work out in my favor, and I had to, cater to my guy Nick's Super Bowl party. It is what it is. It happens. But this year, let me ask you this: who do you think will have more yardage, Amari Cooper or CD Lamb?
CeeDee Lamb, just because I believe in his health more. So like last year, I'm doing math on the fly here.
Okay.
When CeeDee had Dak, he was on pace for 102 catches for 1,300 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns. Right. So, and I think being the slot guy has the advantages. Like Amari Cooper draws your number 1. CeeDee Lamb draws your number 3, generally speaking, in terms of your corners. So I think CeeDee, he had 111 targets last year. You add an extra game, you give him back Dak, which will eliminate your 2-target game there in week 13. Yeah. I say CeeDee Lamb goes for, what is their over-under?
They have 1,074 yards.
I think CeeDee Lamb is between 12 and 1,300 yards.
Yeah, I agree. I think Steve said that over and Pro Bowl. I think this is going to be CeeDee Lamb's season. Like I said, CeeDee Lamb was my top 5 receiver the moment we drafted him, and I feel like this is going to be the season that we're actually going to see that, if health and everything stays as is. So I'm taking the over, definitely. And the last guy is the topic of a conversation around a lot of trades, when it comes to Cowboys fans, is Michael Gallup, because he's starting to come the third man, the third wheel. They have him at 938 yards. Would you take the over or the under for Michael Gallup?
That's a good number. So if I'm giving 1,100 to Amari, I'm giving 1,300. That gets me to 24 of my 4,600. I got 2,200 left to give out. Can I give 1,000 of it to Michael Gallup? 843 yards with bad quarterback last year. You add a game. Yeah, I'll put in the prediction that you do have 3 receivers that go for 1,000 yards. I'll say over.
3 for 1,000? Okay. That's what I was going to ask.
I mean, the last 2 guys, he averages about 110 targets a year. And in 2019, he missed 2 games. So it could be even higher than that. So call it 115 to 125 targets. Yeah, I think he turns that into 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I will say over for the reason that you mentioned about Amari Cooper, because if Amari Cooper is out due to a nagging ankle injuries, those balls are going to be more thrown to Michael Gallup. Now, you also got to take in consideration, if he's healthy, whether Blake Jarwin's going to come back, because we saw kind of, how him and Dak were established for that brief moment before he got hurt, in that game. But, Dalton Schultz, also the tight end position as well. And then you also got to include Tony Pollard. So those are where those additional yards. But you also might have, Cedric Wilson and Simi Fioco, and the list goes on and on with some of these other wide receivers. And so
it's going to be hard to give the receivers. It's going to be hard to give the receivers combined like 35 or 3,600 yards, because you're like, if he's throwing for 4,600, are you telling me the total to Pollard, Zeke, Jarwin, Schultz, Cedric Wilson, all of that is under 1,000 total? Probably not. But I don't know who to take it from.
Well, I mean, Team 40 burgers. I mean, that's what's going to be the standard for us. So we're going to be putting up points, and so I would take the over for Michael Gallup. Like I said, that's the thing that keeps me sane, Jeff. To be honest with you, is this offense is like as many question marks as we have about the Dallas Cowboys defense. At least I can look at this offense if healthy and be like, all right, we're going to be okay. Like I said, there might be a lot of cannons, Cowboys Nation, on the opening night versus Tampa firing off. But damn it, we're going to fire some cannons off too. So that's the thing, is like, I feel like we can't stop Tampa's offense, but they can't stop our offense either. So we're just going to shoot it out and let the best team win. So I can't wait to that game. And Pick and Pop, man, shouts out for the super chat, man. And thanks for all the comments, man. I see you guys. I appreciate all the support. One last thing, Jeff, before I let you go. All right, my guy. You're a Mavs fan. I'm a Mavs fan. We saw today Luka got first team. What are my Dallas Mavericks going to do with Luka, man? Like, and Porzingis, like, are we going to fix this thing, or are we going to get another era of Dirk when we kind of just float around and use Luke's talent, and then he kind of fades away, and then it ends on a bad note? Where do you see this thing going?
Luke is too good is the problem. So today on the radio, I did a segment which was every team that's still in the NBA playoffs. How was their team built, and what can the Mavericks learn from it? And the vast majority of them, if it's not multiple superstars, just choose your city, like Brooklyn or the Clippers, the answer is usually that lottery pick plus that lottery pick plus that lottery pick, and then free agency. They came out of tanking with Luka, and now they're too good to get lottery picks. So
that's
the
what
answer
we went with Dirk as well. We're always kind of in the middle of the road. Right?
So the answer is going to be that your front office is going to have to do a better job than other teams of finding dudes. Like the Jazz found Royce O'Neal, undrafted free agent. Joe Ingles, they gave up next to nothing for. Like, they're going to have to find better role players than they have, because they still got it. I would call it tank residue. When Maxi Kleba is making $8.5 million and Dwight Powell is making $11 million, like, that is not where you want your cap space to be tied up in. So you have to find a better use of your money. But to do that, you got to find a way out of your contracts that you got. So, like, Luke is a stud. Luke is going to be an NBA champion. There's no doubt about that.
Let's just hope it's in Dallas.
Yes, let's hope it's in Dallas. Because he's going to sign his Supermax, which is going to mean, in theory, he's here for the next 6 years minimum. But then you never know, because guys, does 2 or 3 years into it, is that when he starts going, hey, it's not happening, time to force my way out? I hope they figure it out. They just have to do a better job of identifying dudes and getting them, because they don't have the assets to trade and beat people in trade offers. They are, right now, their money is kind of tied up in dudes like Timmy Hardaway, and if Josh Richardson opts in, and Dwight Powell, and it's like, it's gross. It's gross.
Right, yeah. And then, like I said, from the Mavs standpoint, we're kind of the Dallas Cowboys. We never we try to go hard in free agency from the Mavericks standpoint, but we always strike out, man. And like I said, we brought in Porzingis. I thought Porzingis was going to be that guy. And I really thought last year, going through kind of what Porzingis went through in the bubble, he was going to be a lot better, but he just disappeared on us in the playoffs, man. So here we are. So I haven't been watching the NBA playoffs since we got bumped out. I'm a sort of loser, Jeff. I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like, when my team gets knocked out, I'm just like over it all. Like, whatever, it is what it is. I'm moving on to the next thing. So, this is Cowboys football. But last thing, I also want to chime in, Oxnard, right? So we got the list. We're going to be out in Oxnard officially. You guys are going to be out there, right, on Oxnard. So coverage, man. So all you guys have been asking about Oxnard. I think it's the 22nd. It's the opening day. Did they say?
Yeah. If you're off by a day. You're in the right ballpark.
Yeah. July 22nd. Yeah. So I definitely can't wait. And you were talking about some bar on
the Rudder Room.
The Rudder Room.
Yeah, the Rudder Room is a bar in Oxnard, California. It's on the beach, but you have to like walk down some steps underneath a building to get in, and it smells like pee, and it's cash only. But and if it's empty, it won't be fun. But when you get a bunch of media people there, the Rudder Room's where it's at.
It's fun. Yes, I'm definitely going to see you guys in the Rudder Room, and I can't wait, man. But Jeff, man, I appreciate you for coming on, my guy, and spending the time with the CFO gang. I appreciate everyone in the chat. But for the people who don't know, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube, Jeff Cavanaugh. You can find me on 105.3 The Fan, Monday through Friday, home of the Cowboys, 2 to 7 p.m., or the Odyssey app if you're out of the listening area, AUDACY. If you are into daily fantasy, you could sign up on Underdog Fantasy, where I pick over-unders every night in the NBA, and I do parlays and try to make money. And if you use the promo code JEFFC, JEFFC, you get 25 bonus bucks. I'm on Twitter at JC1053. I'm on Twitch, Jeff Cavanaugh. I'm on Instagram, Time for Jeffrey. I'm on stuff. Yeah, I'm around. I'm around.
He's everywhere. What are you playing on Twitch? Are you still playing Warzone?
I play Warzone sometimes, but I'm trying to sneakily, I think, turn Twitch into where I can just stream from YouTube and Twitch. So if people don't use YouTube and they do use Twitch, that I can get to everybody. I'm just trying to get everybody.
All eyes, man. All eyes on Jeff, man. I appreciate it. And for you guys that are tuning in for the first time, you guys, of course, can find me on Twitter at JTuck151, and then also on my YouTube channel, of course, Cowboys Fans Only. And then you can go to cowboysfansonly.com to get your CFO merch, man. I appreciate all the support and the donations, man. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. It's like I said, Jeff, appreciate you for coming on, man. I had a blast, man. So, we're gonna just keep talking this season, man. Like I said, boss man, that's you and Voch. That's your guy.
I'm gonna start distancing. I'm distancing. Voch liked it more than I did.
No, ain't no distancing right now, man. I definitely got to bring Voch on because we have to talk, man. But we'll see how things at camp. Like I said, a lot of people have like pointed at me as like the boss man hater. I'm not. It was just one. If you watched our draft show, I was just upset because the chat got me all excited because I was like, day 2, we're not getting Asante Samuel Jr. It ain't happening. Like, oh no, Tuck, we're gonna get him. He's gonna be there. Picks. They kept building me up. They built me up, Jeff. And then it was just like boom, and it's like, all right. So I exploded on camera, and so they kind of clipped that and did what they did. It was like, shots at the boss man. We're cool, man. We saw the shot on the video, man. So I'm pulling from boss man and also Nashawn Wright because I need a cornerback too that I can trust. I just like right now. Granted, Anthony Brown is that veteran, but it's like,
I would rather all their players that they drafted be awesome than me be right all day.
Right, exactly. I'd rather be wrong and eat crow and let them. I did the same thing with Van Der Esch, man. Van Der Esch, I hated the pick.
I wanted Calvin Ridley so bad.
Calvin, yep. Same here, man. Calvin Ridley, because we moved on. Well, actually, I wanted Derwin James, but since he was gone, it was Calvin Ridley. But it's like, yeah, so it is what it is. Once you wear the star, I'm representing you until you're no longer wearing the star, man. So, but Jeff, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate everyone in the chat. I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged, and go Cowboys. Oh, actually, tomorrow night, I'm going to be on with Philly Notion because he wants to. I've been going back and forth with these Eagles guys, man. They always want some piece of the action, so they want more smoke. These Eagles fans want more smoke. I'm going to give it to them, man. So I'll be on live tomorrow night at 7 o'clock with Philly Notion on his channel. We're going to smoke these Eagles fans out, man, because they think that. So here's the bet they made me, Jeff, that they are going to win more games to the Cowboys.
Oh, you already won that bet.
And if
they don't have a quarterback.
And if I win, they have to wear Cowboys merch on their show for an entire week, and then if they win, vice versa. So
you're safe.
I only make safe bets, man. That's the way I rock, man. So tomorrow night, catch me with Philly Notion at 7 p.m. Central, man. We're gonna chime in, so definitely tune in for that, man. I appreciate each and every one of you. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged, and go